Welcome to this video discussing Common Remitter in PeopleSoft version 9.2. This video has been created to show you those changes that you will see for Common Remitter after we go live on version 9.2. As far as the changes you will see in Common Remitter once we go live, they are very minimal. First, there are no changes to the way that you run processes for Common Remitter retirement remittance and Common Remitter tax shelter annuity remittance. Navigational changes are the only real changes you have to deal with. We'll also talk about how Report Manager is playing a more prominent role in version 9.2. Let's first go through retirement remittance tasks. To get to the retirement processes and inquiries, you will go through BOR menus, BOR Payroll, Common Remitter, and then Retirement. As we mentioned earlier, how you process retirement remittance tasks is not changing. So you will still complete certain processes after other people have performed their tasks. After the Shared Services Center has completed the retirement provider work table load successfully, institutions can then begin processing retirement remittance. This includes adding contribution row, retirement provider adjustments, and retirement provider validation. At this point, the institution should re-verify reconcilement of contribution amounts. After the Shared Services Center has completed the retirement provider final extract and notified the institutions of this, institutions can create retirement accounting entries. Then you can generate retirement journal entries and post-retirement journals. And then you perform final reconcilement of the retirement history table data. You may run the retirement work table queries and reports anytime after you receive notification from Shared Services that the work tables have been created. You can now log into PeopleSoft Financials and check your data. Under Retirement, look for these inquiries and reports under Retirement Inquiry, Work Table Errors, Work Table Load Details, Retirement Provider Summary Work Table, Retirement Provider Variances, and Retirement Provider Variances Detail. Once you receive notification from the Shared Services Center that the final extract has been completed, you may run Retirement History Table Inquiries and Reports. The Retirement History Table Inquiries and Reports can also be found under Retirement Inquiry, and they include ERS Summary Report, TRS Summary Report, Retirement Provider Summary History Table, History Table Load Details, Retirement Certification Report, Retirement Provider Summary History, Retirement Benefit Plan Summary History, and Termination Reason History Table. Other supporting general ledger reports that you may need to run include the Ledger History Report, the Ledger Activity Report, and the Journal Entry Detail Report. You can now find the Ledger History Report under BOR Menus, BOR General Ledger, and then BOR GL Reports. You can find the Ledger Activity Report and the Journal Entry Detail Report under General Ledger and then General Reports. Once again, there are no changes in how you complete retirement remittance tasks in the upgraded version of PeopleSoft. Now, let's shift our focus to TSA, or Tax Shelter Annuity Remittance Tasks, which can be found under BOR Menus, BOR Payroll, Common Remitter, and then TSA. Like retirement remittance tasks, you will complete your TSA remittance processes after Shared Services and ITS have completed certain tasks. So after Shared Services loads the TSA work table and sends out the notification, institutions should reconcile contribution amounts and submit a ticket for identified discrepancies if applicable. As needed, Shared Services and ITS correct the identified discrepancies and let the institution know when the adjustments and/or contribution row request is completed. The institutions can then verify their requested adjustment or add contribution row request. At this point, the institution can then re-verify reconcilement of the contribution amount. After Shared Services Center has completed the TSA final extract and notified institutions of this, you create TSA accounting entries. After this, you can generate TSA journal entries and post the TSA journal. And then you perform final reconcilement of TSA history table data. You can run TSA work table inquiries and reports anytime after you receive notification from the Shared Services Center indicating that the work tables have been created. The TSA work table inquiries and reports are located under TSA and then TSA Inquiry. The TSA work table contains data for all 403B and 457B plans after the TSA work table load process is complete. The TSA Details for All Plans query returns all data processed during the TSA work table load to the TSA work table. The TSA work table Errors query returns data that does not pass validation checks for contributions processed during the TSA work table load to the TSA work table for your review and analysis. The TSA Work Net Positive Data query returns data for net positive contribution remittance amounts contained in the TSA work table. The TSA Work Net Negative Data query returns data for net negative contribution remittance amounts contained in the TSA work table. The TSA Work Net Zero Data query returns data for net zero contribution remittance amounts contained in the work table. The TSA Variances Work Table query compares TSA data in the TSA work table against the PIEX data in the per serve board table to identify if variances exist for a given pay run ID. The data in this report is provided in summary form. If a variance is shown, you must run the TSA Variances Detail Report for further analysis to determine the cause for the variance between the TSA work table and the per serve board table. Also located under TSA Inquiry are the TSA History Table inquiries and reports that you can run anytime after notification from Shared Services that the final extract has been completed for a pay run. The TSA History Table contains data for all 403B and 457B plans after the TSA final extract process has been completed. The TSA History Details query returns data contained in the TSA History Table for review and analysis. The TSA History Net Positive Data query returns data for net positive contribution remittance amounts contained in the TSA History Table. The TSA History Net Negative Data query returns data for net negative contribution remittance amounts contained in the TSA History Table. The TSA History Net Zero Data report returns data for net zero contribution remittance amounts contained in the TSA History Table. And the TSA Remittance Report returns data for remittance amounts contained in the TSA History Table for review. As we mentioned earlier, you can find the Ledger History Report under Board Menus, Board General Ledger, and then Board GL Reports. And you can find the Ledger Activity Report and the Journal Entry Detail Report under General Ledger and then General Ledger Reports. One note about the Ledger History Report. It has been redesigned for this upgrade to PSFIN 9.2. When you run the report now, you simply select a checkbox to choose whether you want Summary, Detail, or Detail with Beginning Balance. When you run a report now, many times you will retrieve it from Report Manager in version 9.2 rather than from Process Monitor. You are still able to see your report process in the Process Monitor. But to help keep items more secure, you'll need to proceed to Report Manager to actually retrieve the report. In Process Monitor, you can see everyone's process status. In Report Manager, you will only see and be able to pull the reports you generated. In Report Manager, you proceed to the Administration tab and find your report. You may need to refresh the page periodically until it displays. As you just saw, there are very few changes affecting Common Remitter. Primarily, your navigation has been updated. So what's next to prepare for the upgrade to version 9.2? Well, we are working on a reference guide that will list out all of these navigational changes so that you can easily find them when you begin performing Common Remitter tasks for the first time after go live. You will be able to find this reference guide along with any other news or information on the Georgia First website. If this video prompted any questions about Common Remitter, please feel free to send them to PSFIN_upgrade@usg.edu. We'll make sure to get you an answer before go live. Also, be on the lookout for a web conference shortly after go live. This will afford all Common Remitter users the opportunity to ask us questions about any changes they see in Common Remitter. That concludes this video on working with Common Remitter in PeopleSoft version 9.2. Thank you for watching.